here is a page from Scott McCloud's book, Understanding Comics. I'm using this just to demonstrate a couple of different things because the language of comics can go from depicting like physical viewable events to also our experiences, emotional or physiological experiences. And that kind of visual drawing language, it's also like, culturally relevant. So it can change with different cultures and over time. But at the same time, I thought it would give us a little example. Here in this first panel, McCloud had also used this space to essentially go over how simplistic drawing can be more relatable to more people because it's easier to see themselves in a face with just a dot and a dash, or two dots for eyes and a dash for a mouth. Everyone can go, oh, it's me, or whatever. So it can be elaborate or simplistic, it doesn't matter. Also, emotional or other like mental states can be communicated by the physical symptoms they produce, like sweat beads, perhaps. I mean, it could just be an indication of the thermostat going up, or it could be an indication of anxiety, or in my case, it could be an indication of a hot flash. But as those sweat beads start to leave the flesh and radiate out from the person's head, then that's also like a cultural statement of a visual like representation of anxiety, right? And when we look at these spiral eyes, for many people that can be like, confusion, delusion, delirium, dementia, all sorts of things. For myself, the X's for eyes are also symbolic of death, right? We can also see that even if you don't have color available, just hash marks like, can represent either change in pigment of the skin, say if someone's face is flushing or something like that, or maybe it could be a shadow or like an emotional context. And then again, like marks floating around the person's head and body, like indicate different types of other subjective states. So these subjective state symbols are called emanata. And so we'll be talking about them also in the role of representing signs and symptoms. So objective and measurable indicators of states of health are called signs. Symptoms are subjective measures, and we'll get into those in a little bit. But when we're drawing objective states of health, they often convey universal experiences, and that can make them very effective. This is from a comic by David Lasky. And yeah, if anyone is taking this workshop who has never sneezed, I would actually be very shocked, right? So again, universal experience, very dramatic, very good illustration there. And when we're drawing, we can also replicate commonly understood conditions. So this is a mini comic, or this is a gag cartoon by Emily Flake. I think it was in the New Yorker magazine. Here the physician is saying, if you connect the measles, it spells out my parents are idiots. Okay, that's, that's a vaxxer or not a vaxxer gag. We're not going to worry about that, but I actually picked this because Emily has very well drawn those measles, and we can look at, it and understand what it is right away. And then objective states of health can also really rely on non-normative appearances, right? And those non-normative appearances can be accurate or exaggerated. So here, Sarah Romano Deal did a mini comic that I like very much about her experience with Lyme disease. So we can see an actual bullseye rash. Then we can see actual swelling, which she's talking about a Popeye arm. So she's also like included a metaphor. And there are emanata, or maybe emanati would be the plural for Latin, around the arm, right? Which would indicate discomfort or pain or something in relationship either to the bite or the swelling, right? So there are some multiple layers there, but she's combining objective and subjective conditions, which is really great. Also, objective indicators can be done really simply. So, expression, symbols of cisgendered masculinity and signs in this particular comic by Maddie G, which is from the Nib, are really great. I hope I'm not, well, I'm moving my image around all over the place. I hope that's not too confusing for everybody. Anyway, here, right, the comic is about gynomastia, where essentially cisgendered men may develop breasts, which is a really good comic, I think, also since cisgendered men can also develop breast cancer on occasion. I think these like discussions are really interesting. But here it's a very complex, cultural and emotional issue, but the drawings are very simple and very articulate at the same time. We can see through these symbols of Mars, right, that these are male figures. We can also see, based on these very simplistic little U-shaped lines, that they have breasts. And we can also see not only their pathological objective measure, we can see their emotional reaction based on their face, those two dots in the mouth, right? We can see their emotional reaction to their condition at the same time. So like I said, it's very simple, but it's also very articulate. And it's a great comic also. So the Nib has a lot of great graphic medicine. Okay, and then here is a panel by Julia Wirtz from The Infinite Weight. Many conditions are combinations of objective signs and subjective symptoms of people's pathological experiences. So in this panel, Julia's brother is asking what happened. I'm not going to tell you what she has because I don't want to give it away. I use it when I teach. I use this comic. It's really great. And she's saying, I don't know. I think I've got the vapors, whatever that is, right? But we can see that her cheeks are flushed based on the image. So there's an objective measure, a sign of illness. And then from the spiral eyes and the little springs springing out of her head, the emanata, right? We can also see that she's experiencing different types of physical and mental states simultaneously. And some people get very creative when they are doing their drawings of subjective indicators. I'm probably mispronouncing Leela's last name. Abdulrazak is what I think it is. Leela Abdulrazak. She wrote a mini comic called Migraine, and it is really incredible. And as a fellow migraineur, I can really relate to it. And here on this page, in these 6 panels, she's relating the experience of the onset of a one-sided migraine. And it's really good. As the book progresses, actually, when I have a migraine, I can't look at her drawings because they start to trigger for me, but they're very creative and really, really, really great. So we can also use metaphor for subjective states and symbolism as well. And again, messages may be culturally dependent, but we can always give it a shot and then see what message people get. And then if we need to, we can change it or not. So here is a page from my book, Draw Stronger, where I needed to draw some symptoms of like a nerve impingement or nerve damage into the hand. So for shooting pain, I drew lightning bolts as the metaphor for shooting pain. For tingling, I wasn't quite sure what to do, but I thought of the prickly and staticky feeling, so I decided to use a wavy line. And then for numbness, when your hand falls asleep or you experience numbness in your hand, you still, some of your sensory nerves might or your proprioceptors might understand or be able to still sense some of the presence of your body, but at the same time, it's going to be sketchy. So I decided to use the dotted line. And because I labeled them, the image and the text are kind of enhancing one another, and I think helping people get the idea. And then there's Gemma Correll. She has this great Types of Tired page, and she's using metaphor. And of course, tiredness, exhaustion is, mostly a subjective state. But she has some really great metaphors here and symbolism. So zonked, drained, that's quite a metaphor. Wiped out, she's using these terms literally, which I really love. Beat is cracking me up because it's also a pun. Burned out, frazzled. Apathetic is like actually with the meh there and the emotional look in the face, that's also again kind of more around physical and emotional states. And then there's the nice pooped metaphor, and then broken is literal. So again, these metaphors are just really great, and they can communicate conditions, whether they're looking accurate to the pathology or not, it doesn't really matter, right? So it's kind of awesome. And here I made a page of images of Charlie Brown by Charles Schulz, and I added word balloons and thought bubbles because as a patient myself and also sometimes working with patients, patients have internal conflicts based on their illnesses, based on their experiences, based on the expectations of their loved ones. All sorts of things go on there. So anyway, I thought I would just create these word balloons and thought bubbles on Schulz's very expressive drawings. So here in the first panel, Charlie Brown is holding a bowl of dog food based on the dots in his eyes, the tongue sticking out, so his expression, right? His expression is definitely in conflict with what he's saying, which is, this looks delicious. And then what he's thinking, don't throw up in the bowl, is actually kind of corresponding with his expression. This Charlie Brown image is kind of autobiographical. I'm not on oxycodone, but I've had 2 hip replacements. Both of my hips are replaced. And before I got the replacements, when I'd go to a wedding to dance, I'd like take a bunch of Aleve and, just give myself a painkiller because I love to dance socially. So this is me as Charlie Brown. Charlie saying, I love dancing. And then he's thinking, thank God for oxycodone, which when I was working at Sloan Kettering, a number of my patients would be on oxycodone. That wasn't me. But anyway, I just thought that, in this case, it's, giving us more depth into his condition based on his thought bubble. And then here, again, from my experience at Sloan Kettering, here we can see that there's emanata of kind of confusion, dizziness, disorientedness, and the tongue sticking out. And then also with the physical language of Charlie Brown holding his abdomen, we can tell that, he's not feeling well at all. And then he's saying, prostate cancer, I can beat it. I'm a fighter. So again, the way people react to diagnoses based on either their own wishes or what their expectations are of their family's wishes or friends' wishes or their relationship to the doctor, it can be very complex. And what they say, what their appearance is, and what they're thinking. In this case, he's saying this diagnosis is making me nauseated. So he's probably still a fighter anyway, but he's also acknowledging his internal conflict and upset. And that, that can also add another wrinkle to, communication with patients or with our friends and family. Now,